moment, today, most finance teams are still operating across multiple systems. They're logging into bank portals or multiple bank portals, they're downloading files, uploading into ERP, and then reconciling after the fact. This causes delays, risk, and a lot of unnecessary manual work. So instead of layering more tools up, what he wanted to do was bring ERP and finance together and put it in a place where the finance teams are already natively working. And that's where Yavrio was born. So what we're trying to do is allow you to move from a disconnected process to a single continuous flow from transactions right through to reconciliations and payments. I also am aware that I'm very Scottish, so I'll try and slow myself down because I talk very fast when I'm excited, and I get very excited about this. So to simplify what our North Star is our North Star is zero. We're wanting zero files, zero config, zero fraud, and zero setup. So what we're trying to do is move you away from CSV downloads and uploads and no fixing broken data, connect your bank account quickly and easily with zero setup, zero fraud exposure from downloads of files because there's nothing to intercept or manipulate, and zero ongoing configuration or support. So we handle everything completely behind the scenes. So it's a nice frictionless experience for yourself. So the finance team is just working in one system and not managing the processes, the config and the setup between us. So to us, it's all about removing that friction and making things work in a way that works for finance teams today. So what problems do we solve? So the reality today is, even though everyone's talking about automation and AI, everything's still really, really manual. Finance teams are still having to log into bank portals, we're downloading CSVs, we're uploading them, and then we're trying to reconcile and stitch everything together after the fact. And that creates three real problems, amongst others. But time, particularly at month end, most finance teams are stretched to breaking point, and at month end that becomes a bit of a chaos storm. Visibility, because the data's sitting outside the ERP, and as data and AI get larger and larger, more organisations want control of their data and be able to access and visualise that data quickly and easily. And most importantly, risk and fraud, because there can be errors from manual work and manual uploads, and there can be interception. And this is the way most teams are still working. They're still working with this manual payment process, and 40% of companies actually report a delay in those payments due to the lack of automation. So what we're trying to do is solve these problems easily for you. So when we strip it back, what are our core solutions? What we really do is fix two broken parts of the finance process: cash ops and bank feeds. So first, it's about getting accurate real-time bank data into your ERP without looking at files, without having to manually upload, without having to reconcile. And secondly, it's about managing payments and collections in the same place the finance team's already working. So most organisations will have some solutions for this, or they have workarounds, but they're stitched together. So what we're trying to do, and what we do, is bring this into one controlled end-to-end workflow. So we move away from the fixing broken problems, and we set everything up so it's logical and product led and it's easy to use. So how do we do that? So on the bank feed side, this replaces one of the most common pain points that we see, which is teams logging into multiple bank portals, downloading CSVs and trying to match the transactions after the fact. So instead, what we do is we connect directly via an API. So balances and transactions are live inside the ERP. There is a small demo today, only 3 minutes, which will show you a bit of the basics of what I'm talking about. So this means we've got no more file handling, no lag between the banking systems, and a magic bank reconciliation and much faster reconciliation process in this. We work with live banking data, premium treasury connections and automatic reconciliation. So our magic bank rec will use matching of transactions. So we layer in that automated matching so the team isn't starting from scratch every single time. The second part of what we do is cash ops, and we've now included cards, which I'll talk about a bit later in this session. So payments are typically where things break down even more for finance teams, because most organisations are still jumping out of their ERP to make payments or collect funds or manage direct debits or manage payments, and they're then trying to bring the data back in afterwards. And this is where errors, delays and control issues can creep in. So what we've done instead is brought that all inside the ERP. So whether that is sending payments, collecting via direct debit or collecting via card payments, which we'll cover off, or managing inbound cash, it all happens within the same workflow, using the same controls, and more importantly, with built-in validation and security, like confirmation of PE, validation of PE, and when the when you're making payments, which you'll see later in the demo, that can actually be managed by Microsoft Authenticator, and it can be logged to the people that in your organisation are actually authorised to make those payments. So you're not just moving faster, you're not just giving the finance team better tools, you're actually reducing your risk of fraud as well, which is getting larger and larger as bad actors continue to look at exploring vulnerabilities within people's systems at the moment. So if you step back, what does that actually give you? So it gives you end-to-end control to your cash inside your ERP, from seeing your banking position in real time to making payments, collecting payments, right through to your reconciliation. And the key difference between what you are doing or what companies are doing and what we do is none of this relies on manual steps or the external systems. And that's what drives the real impact, because it gives you a faster month end, far better visibility of your cash and your processing, and far less operational overhead for the team, allowing them to focus on the things that matter. So it's not just about adding capability, it's about actually removing the steps that the finance teams shouldn't be doing in the first place and letting them work with the systems that they should be using. So the obvious question we get asked a lot is, how does this work in the real world? Because does it work across real world banking complexity? Because it's not got less complex over the last 10 years, it's got more and more. And most organisations aren't running in one bank or even in one country or with one payment type. And that's where we have done the hard work for you. So Yavrio is about 3 years old, and what we have done is we've built this in 2 rails, both open banking and treasury connections. So open banking gives you your secure, regulated access to live account data, feeds, balances, transactions, all within your dynamics. And where banks require it or where clients need a deeper integration, then we also have direct treasury connections. We work with more than 13,000 banks globally in 42 plus countries. I think that might be moving to 46 quite soon. And we've just finalised Canada as well. We work across multiple treasury banks, and we work across multiple payment systems. For example, in the US, ACH, RTP, and in the UK, open banking BACS, FPS. And we also work a lot on the coverage of that. So this is how we handle the operational complexity globally, because in reality, finance teams aren't just looking for a bank feed. They need coverage across feeds, visibility, payments across all the markets they trade in. So for example, in the US, we support bank feeds at scale and key rails, including ACH, RTP, wire transfers, and we have access to banks like Bank of America, Wells Fargo. In the UK, it's not just access to the banks, it's the rails that the finance teams use day to day, like BACS payments, faster payments, international payments. And across Europe, again, you've got feeds plus domestic. So this is our current coverage, and it's growing right now on a weekly basis. But this is where we currently operate and where we're currently growing. So the main reason we cover this off is because what we're trying to do is it shouldn't matter to you where your bank account is. It shouldn't matter where you're operating or where you're trading. What we're trying to do is give you one seamless process and system, and you don't need to know the back end of it. I think the way it was explained to me in the very beginning is I don't need to know how to turn the light, how the light works to turn the light on and off. And that's what we've tried to create with this. So we do all this behind the scenes to make sure that we can cover you regardless of where your operation might be based or what you're trying to do. This is a small oversight of some of our customers. They again are growing on a rapid basis. We just recently took on the chain Leon as well. But the reason we like to chat about our customers is because we can support multiple levels of customers regardless of size. And we support your ERP and Dynamics, whether it is BC or F&O or FNSCM or whatever Microsoft decides it's going to be called this week. So we have small mum and pop shops that might be working with a very small BC system and transacting 100,000 a year, right through to companies like Sodexo who are transacting 20 billion plus per year. Regardless of your ERP or multiple ERPs, we can cover all of that with the same seamless program, and it works in the exact same way. So you don't get a lesser experience regardless of what ERP system you're on. So this is a quick demo of how it works in action. I will chat a wee bit through it to let you know what's happening, but I didn't want to narrate it fully because you're like, we can see Mags, it's absolutely fine. So the first thing it'll do is it'll show you how you connect to your bank system. The important thing to note about this is when you're connecting your bank, it will actually take you out of your ERP and into your actual bank portal to allow you to authorise there. So we do not store your bank details, we do not store your bank connections or any of that. That all runs seamlessly within your portal. All we do is pull it back into the Yavrio portal. So you can see you can use a QR code or you can search for your bank. and it will then take you to authorise you in your bank and make sure that you've given the right permissions for us to have, not us, for you to have access within your ERP system to your bank transactions. And as you can see, that's now pulled through your live balance. So you can see it's connected to your bank. You can see your live balance. You can also set that up to pull on an hourly basis, a daily basis. You can set up the schedule when you want these pull through. And next it will run through a very quick reconciliation. So it'll just show how they reconcile within your ERP system now that you're connected to your bank. And the last thing it's going to do is show you how you would use your BACS payments. So you've submitted those payments. It's now sent an email to the authoriser. Again, this is set up by yourself. You decide who has the authorisation to authorise payments made on your behalf. They'll then have to sign in with their company account and they will get to see the details of the payment. So who you're paying, what the authorisation logs, when it was submitted, who it was submitted by, what the payment details look like. They can then authorise that and they will have to get the code from their Authenticator app. And again, you will set up exactly who has authorisation to do so. And that's them successfully made the payment. And you can now see that back in your ERP system at the back end when you go to the Get Payment Status. We do have a separate cards demo, but we were limited from time. So what I've done instead is just covered off a wee bit about our new cards functionality, which went live about the beginning of April. And we now have everything from card payments in your portal to physical card machines for retail operations. So this is what we are trying to showcase what embedded finance looks like in practice. So this is card payments, but fully inside your Dynamics, not a separate gateway, not another portal, but fully embedded into the finance workflow that your teams are working in today. So why do embedded card payments matter now? So this is where one of the biggest things clearly break today, because card payments and finance systems sit in completely different worlds, particularly for manufacturing, retail, e-commerce, etc. But even with just your suppliers, you raise the invoice in ERP, but the payment generally happens somewhere else. And then finance has to stitch that back together, matching payments, handling fees, or refunds and chargebacks when things get sticky. So reconciliation becomes a cleanup exercise instead of a simple part of the process. And again, that's where time, errors and lack of visibility come from, because you've got the separate portals, you've got the manual reconciliation, and the full journey just sort of seems broken. So businesses now expect payments to be part of the invoice flow, not a detached experience, and that's where this can help. So with this, card payments become native in Dynamics 365 Finance. So they become part of the finance process, not something separate from it. So the invoice, the payment, the posting and the reconciliation all sit in one part of the journey, which means finance isn't chasing what happened after the fact. It's already accounted for in real time. It allows people to pay by link. It's got virtual terminals. It allows automated journals, and it also does auto matching to reconcile at the end. And as I said, we now have physical terminals, which we were showcasing last week at a couple of our retail customers, that allow them to take card payments in store. And again, the BC or the FNSC and posting happens in the back end and is reconciled fully within their ERP. So practically, this is how it works from invoice to reconciliation in one journey. So we connect the invoice. It does say Business Central, but this does work through Business Central and FNSCM. So it works in both systems regardless. So whether you're a BC customer, FNSCM, or if you have multiple, then this will work regardless of, and you'll have the exact same experience. But post the invoice, a sales invoice starts the collection journey inside F&O or BC. The customer then pays. So payment is collected by a link or a virtual terminal and tied directly to that invoice. BC then posts it automatically. You have payout visibility, so the finance team can track the payout time and balance of the account, and then it can be reconciled faster. So it's got the automated matching. So the transactions are matched during reconciliation for a nice, fast, clean close. So by the time the finance goes to reconciliation, most of the work's already done. So instead of this manual matching, it's largely handled as just a part of the process and something that's smooth and easy to do. So this is a quick before and after and how it's operationally different before and after Yavrio. So before Yavrio, you have disconnected operations. You have a separate gateway and ERP flow. You have, again, spreadsheet-led reconciliation. You have unclear fees and delayed cash visibility. And as your business scales, this support burden becomes more and more and more obvious, because the more you're doing, the more money you're making, the harder this can get to reconcile. After with Yavrio, you have a native flow, so your invoice linked payments, your virtual terminals, you have automated journals and matching, you have cleaner reporting and a faster close, and you've got more scalable client operations. So you go from a fragmented admin process to faster collections, better cash visibility, and a cleaner finance operations inside F&O. And from what we hear from all our clients, a much happier finance team. And that's me. Happy to hand off, and thank you so much for listening to me.
Thanks very much, Margaret, or Max, as you're more commonly known. That was really good. Really see how slick it is and how you get that functionality super quickly. So we will move to Q&A after this. So everyone will be welcome to put their mics on or put things in chat. As Debbie said at the beginning, we won't record that, so feel free to be vocal. Hopefully you can all join us, and any of your colleagues are interested to join my colleague Yosh, who is an AI expert on all things Power Platform and data. And he's going to talk to us about how to increase personal productivity with Microsoft Copilot and Co-work. And this is a session he ran at one of our internal HSO 2-day learning conferences, which was really good. So we've asked him if he can rerun that. And I think that'll be great. So if you can attend, please do so. But like all of our sessions, it will be recorded, so you'll be able to view it on demand if you wish. And you can rewatch this one as well. So other than that, I'll say thanks very much for everybody for joining. Thanks to Mags. And we will close the recording now and open for any questions.